Welcome to this exploration of one of the most influential papers in the philosophy of mind and artificial intelligence. In 1950, Alan Turing published Computing Machinery and Intelligence in the journal Mind. This paper posed a question that still resonates today. Can machines think? Rather than debating abstract definitions, Turing proposed a practical test, the famous Turing Test, that has shaped our understanding of artificial intelligence for over 7 decades. Let's understand how Turing reframed one of philosophy's oldest questions. Turing begins his paper with characteristic directness. I propose to consider the question, can machines think? But immediately, he recognizes a problem. The words machine and think are hopelessly vague. Any attempt to define them precisely would simply beg the question. Instead of fighting this definitional quagmire, Turing does something brilliant. He replaces the question with a different one that can actually be answered. Turing proposes what he calls the Imitation Game, now known as the Turing Test. 3 players, a man, a woman, and an interrogator who cannot see the others. The interrogator asks questions trying to determine which is the man and which is the woman. The man tries to deceive, the woman tries to help. If a computer could convince the interrogator as well as a human could, wouldn't that demonstrate something important about the machine's capabilities? Why did Turing choose this approach? The test doesn't require defining thinking or intelligence. It only requires observing behavior. Text-only communication prevents the machine from failing due to appearance or voice. Success or failure can be measured. Did the machine fool the interrogator? The test could eventually be implemented and evaluated. Turing was being pragmatic. He recognized that philosophical debates about consciousness could continue indefinitely. The Imitation Game offered a concrete goalpost. Turing made a bold prediction. I believe that in about 50 years' time, it will be possible to program computers to make them play the imitation game so well that an average interrogator will not have more than 70% chance of making the right identification after 5 minutes of questioning. By 2000, Turing predicted, machines would be able to fool 30% of interrogators in 5-minute conversations. This prediction is remarkably prescient, given that Turing was writing when computers filled entire rooms and had less power than a modern calculator. Before addressing objections to machine intelligence, Turing carefully explains what a digital computer is, something his 1950 audience needed. He describes the 3 essential components: store, memory holding both data and instructions; executive unit, the component that carries out operations; control, the part that interprets instructions and coordinates execution. Turing emphasizes that digital computers are universal machines, his own discovery from 1936. Given enough memory and time, any digital computer can simulate any other. This universality is crucial. Turing argues that if any digital computer could think, then all sufficiently powerful digital computers could think. The specific hardware doesn't matter. The heart of Turing's paper is his systematic response to 9 objections against machine intelligence. Let's examine each. Objection 1, the theological objection. Thinking is a function of man's immortal soul. God has given an immortal soul to every man and woman, but not to any other animal or to machines. Turing's response is delicate but pointed. He notes that theological arguments have historically been poor predictors of scientific possibility. He suggests that if God wanted to give machines souls, surely he could. Objection 2, the heads in the sand. Objection. The consequences of machines thinking would be too dreadful. Let us hope and believe that they cannot do so. This objection essentially says, I don't want machines to think, therefore they can't. Turing finds this insufficiently argued to merit refutation, though he admits it affects many people. We might recognize this objection in modern discussions about AI existential risk. Objection 3, the mathematical objection. This is more serious. It's based on Gödel's incompleteness theorems, which Turing himself had extended. The argument, mathematical logic shows there are statements that a computer cannot prove. Therefore, machines have inherent limitations that humans don't share. Turing's response, there's no evidence that humans can answer all questions either. When humans fail at mathematics, we don't conclude they can't think. Why should we treat machines differently? The mathematical limitations apply to any formal system, possibly including the human brain. Objection 4, the argument from consciousness. Not until a machine can write a sonnet or compose a concerto because of thoughts and emotions felt, could we agree that machine equals brain. This is the objection that a machine might produce intelligent-seeming behavior without genuine understanding or experience. Turing points out that this objection, taken seriously, leads to solipsism, the view that only you can be certain of your own consciousness. We accept other humans are conscious based on their behavior. Why not apply the same standard to machines? Objection 5. Arguments from various disabilities. This cluster of objections claims machines cannot do various things: be kind, creative, original, learn from experience, fall in love, enjoy strawberries and cream, etc. Turing observes that most of these claims are based on inadequate induction. Just because no existing machine does these things doesn't mean no machine ever could. He notes that machines might be kind in some contexts, that machine creativity depends on how we define creativity, and that learning machines were already being developed. Some disabilities are trivial. A machine can't enjoy strawberries because it doesn't have taste buds, not because it can't think. Objection 6, Lady Lovelace's objection. Augusta Ada, Countess of Lovelace, famously wrote about Babbage's analytical engine. The analytical engine has no pretensions to originate anything. It can do whatever we know how to order it to perform. This objection says computers can only do what they're programmed to do. They cannot be original or surprising. Turing's response: computers frequently surprise him. The implication of a program's instructions can be complex and unexpected. Moreover, learning machines could acquire behaviors not explicitly programmed. This objection remains relevant in debates about whether large language models are truly creative or merely recombining training data. Objection 7. Argument from continuity in the nervous system. The nervous system is analog, not digital. Perhaps the brain's continuous nature is essential for thought. Turing responds that digital computers can approximate continuous systems to any desired accuracy. For the purposes of the imitation game, the discrete behavior would be indistinguishable from continuous behavior. Objection 8. The argument from informality of behavior. Humans are governed by rules of conduct, not by rigid deterministic laws. We cannot reduce human behavior to a fixed set of rules. Turing distinguishes between rules of conduct and laws of behavior. Even if humans are bound by physical laws, those laws might be too complex to discover, but they could still exist. Objection 9. Argument from extrasensory perception. Surprisingly, Turing takes ESP seriously, considering it overwhelming evidence at the time. He worries that telepathy might help the interrogator detect a machine. His solution: put the interrogator in a telepathy-proof room. Modern readers may smile, but this reflects that Turing was seriously engaging with the best understanding of his era, including its errors. Perhaps the most forward-looking section of Turing's paper discusses learning machines. Turing realized that programming all of intelligence directly was probably impossible. Instead, he proposed, instead of trying to produce a program to simulate the adult mind, why not rather try to produce one which simulates the child's? This child machine would then be educated by a process analogous to human learning, including punishment and reward signals, teaching by example, random variation, and selection. Turing describes a process remarkably similar to modern machine learning: reward signals, learning from examples, and random variation. Turing discusses the challenges. The child machine would need the ability to form new concepts, generalize from examples, and acquire complex skills through experience. He suggests that random mutations could help explore the space of possible behaviors, with successful mutations retained, an evolutionary approach to learning. Turing was remarkably prescient. Modern AI systems learn exactly this way. They start with relatively simple architectures, receive massive amounts of training data, and develop capabilities far beyond what was explicitly programmed. Has any machine passed the Turing test? Eliza, Joseph Weizenbaum's chatbot, fooled some users but used simple pattern matching. This raised questions about whether fooling people proves intelligence. Loebner Prize, annual competition for the most human-like chatbot. Winners have fooled some judges but never consistently. Eugene Guzman claimed to pass the test by convincing 33% of judges it was a 13-year-old Ukrainian boy. Critics argued the persona's limitations made the test unfair. ChatGPT and GPT-4. Modern large language models can carry on remarkably human-like conversations, though careful interrogators can still detect them. The test has been criticized from multiple angles. The Chinese room. A person following rules to manipulate Chinese symbols might produce perfect Chinese output without understanding Chinese. Searle argues that computation alone cannot produce understanding. Behaviorism. The test is behaviorist. It only measures external behavior, not internal states. But isn't that true of all intelligence assessment? Gaming the test. Systems might pass the test through clever tricks rather than genuine intelligence, like Eugene Goostman pretending to be a teenager with limited English. Moving the goalposts. As machines approach passing the test, critics propose more stringent criteria, leading to an ever-receding definition of true intelligence. Despite its age and criticisms, computing machinery and intelligence remains essential for several reasons. Reframing the question. Turing showed that, can machines think? Can be transformed into empirically answerable questions about behavior and capability. Anticipating AI. Writing before any practical AI systems existed, Turing correctly predicted learning machines, neural networks, and the gradual development of machine capabilities. Philosophical depth. The paper engages seriously with consciousness, free will, creativity, and other deep philosophical issues. Practical influence. The Turing Test, despite criticisms, has shaped the goals and evaluation methods of AI research for decades. Today's debates about AI echo Turing's 1950 analysis. Are LLMs intelligent? Modern language models can pass many forms of the Turing Test. Does this mean they understand? Turing would ask, does it matter if their behavior is indistinguishable? Consciousness in machines. We still debate whether machines can be conscious. Turing's point about solipsism remains relevant. We cannot verify consciousness directly. Learning from data. Turing's vision of child machines educated through experience is exactly what deep learning achieves. The moving goalpost, each AI achievement is dismissed as mere computation. Turing anticipated this objection 75 years ago. Consider what Turing anticipated in 1950. Learning machines that acquire skills from experience, the irrelevance of the specific substrate, that behavioral criteria would be more practical than introspection, that mathematical limitations wouldn't prevent machine intelligence, that objections to machine thought would keep shifting. He was writing about digital computers the size of rooms, with less power than modern calculators. Yet his vision remains relevant as we develop systems of staggering capability. Computing machinery and intelligence is more than a historical document. It's a framework for thinking about artificial intelligence that has shaped the field for over 70 years. Turing didn't prove that machines can think. He showed that the question is more subtle than it appears, proposed a concrete method for addressing it, and systematically dismantled the objections of his day. Most importantly, he asked us to consider, if a machine behaves intelligently, on what grounds can we deny it intelligence? And if we demand something more than behavior, consciousness, understanding, qualia, can we even verify these in other humans? The Turing test may not be the final word on machine intelligence, but Alan Turing asked the right questions, and we're still working on the answers.